Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, we've got more cutting-edge tech from the recent Sea Air Space Conference. Want to see a mini underwater autonomous drone? What about something called the Prowler, also made for unmanned missions? We've got a first look. Plus, did you know Marines and sailors use a decidedly low-tech method for judging currents and sea states before launching craft toward a beach? Have a look at the tech meant to update that practice. Also, the Missile Defense Agency picks a supplier for the next-gen interceptor. Hear who got the $17 billion contract. And big moves on the Hill, where Congress looks to raise enlisted troops' pay and benefits. Our correspondent has the details. It's the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Diana Stancy. The annual Sea Air Space Conference is a showcase of emerging tech that companies are pitching to the Navy, Marines, and international militaries. We were at the event looking for some of the most interesting tech that could be coming to the sea services, and everywhere we looked, it was drones, drones, drones. Autonomous systems are on the march, and we checked a couple interesting options. First up, an autonomous and untethered underwater vehicle called Hydrus. The drone was developed by Advanced Navigation to provide photo imagery of targets, bottom topography, shipwrecks, and more. The company's display certainly made a splash on the show floor, and we spoke with a representative to learn more. Have a look.
The backbone of Advanced Navigation is really, we take an AI approach to all of our products, from inertial navigation to our subsea robotics, and that is really having a machine learning and AI approach to the product. It enables us to really work faster and smaller than some of our competitors. This is Hydrus. Hydrus is a micro drone autonomous underwater vehicle. The real main payload being the camera and position on board. So think of being able to go down and get photo imagery, but also have position, and really being done by one person. So the ability to really have one person, not a large team, and have a small vehicle go down and do photo imagery of a target of interest or some shipwreck or any bottom topography is really where Hydrus is there. It really just takes one person without any formal training or any technology background to go do this without a large team. And really it reduces the cost that maritime technology normally impacts. Really, Hydrus is the ability to not have a tether and get stuck in tough environments. It can go further and deeper, and it also has a hubless thruster design, so it's not going to get caught in seaweed or fishing line or anything along those lines. And its ability to have 6 ways of freedom with the thruster design, so it can move horizontally, vertically, it can do underhull inspection. Those type of things is really where Hydrus is really impressive, and be able to do multiple movements opposed to the standard one pathway that a normal UUV would do. The ability for it to not be tethered and all encompass, it has a bunch of more sensors on board as well than a normal standard undersea drone would, right? Where it has a DVL and a sonar system to really help you map out and give position, as well as the INS on board with our AI enables it to really do a photo imagery opposed to a static scenario that some other competitors may do. Our intuitive mission planning is really web-based and really simple to operate, even if you've never done this type of scenario before. So with just setting up your mission plan, getting a good position, and doing all that, you can deploy this system within under 30 minutes. You can preset your status point. So if you have a failure, it will come back to the home point, or as the mission is completed, it will come back to the home point. So there's set stats for it to come back to its home ship or to its last known location, so then you can retrieve it and offload the data. A quick, easy, simple mission for Hydrus is you've identified a shipwreck per se that you want to go down and look at. You go into our really simple mission planner. You'll map that out, whether you want to just, let's just call it a mow the grass scenario, a back and forth run rate. You'll set an altitude for the Hydrus. that would go down and completely map that area and then return back to you with no issue. So the Navy's interested in numerous needs. That is, going down and doing, inner harbor inspection, bridge inspection, and dock inspection, as well as special forces are looking to employ this, overseas and really putting a vehicle in place of personnel to go look over the horizon and not put personnel in danger.
This year's Sea Air Space was also the site of the debut of a new offering from boatmaker Metal Shark. Made to complete a range of missions, the autonomous loitering vessel is made to lurk just below the surface and carry various sensor payloads. Making its premiere at Sea Air Space, meet the Prowler.
This is a 30-foot amphibious boat that we built called the Prowler, and it basically is a culmination of things that we've learned in the last 5-7 years working on different autonomous platforms. And not specifically at one government requirement, but also a combination of ideas that we had that we wanted to showcase, including amphibious and semi-submersible. So as I mentioned to you earlier, the vessel is on its own wheels. The front wheels are self-powered, so they have the ability to move the vessel around kind of in a situation like this at a low speed, come up a ramp, out of the well deck on a ship, all on their own feet, if you will. The rear tires and wheels are more conventional trailer equipment, and the vessel can also, once it's where it needs to be, the front wheel can be retracted and the vessel can be towed over the road without a trailer behind a prime mover. So on top of that, we kind of added some semi-submersible capability. It's hard to see from here, but the sides are open voids to the sea. And when she's running, she runs pretty traditionally as a planing boat, but when she settles in the water, she semi-submerges. Not completely under the water, but with a low profile, both for the sake of lowering detection, but also improving seakeeping and sensor stability, and also survivability in heavier weather. We've got a folding mast. The mast leans back really, and that's to achieve the transportation is such a key element. This is a C-130 and a container deployable solution. So that was key in order to get the whole package into that shape that we needed for that. Likewise over the road, but over the road is really easier than some of the airborne missions. Listening and learning from our clients about what they have, what's worked, what hasn't. Really a focus on modularity. There's a payload module in the vessel that allows you to change out both the propulsion and any of the payload packages, like the payload bay, if you will. And just kind of seeing what makes it difficult for our clients trying to use the product. A lot of lessons learned and experience from our Marine Corps LRUSV program. So a lot of that kind of DNA in it, a lot of our ideas, and a lot of feedback from clients that we've been working with. Yeah, I mean it has 3 to 5 mile an hour surface speed depending on grade and so forth. But the intent is, it comes to a ramp, it goes up the ramp, moves to where it needs to be staged, and it could either redeploy or wait for a prime mover to move it a larger distance. So yeah, it has both those capabilities. We've got a hardware capability, an operating system, but the payloads are what the clients choose based on what their mission is, right? And we've shown some mock demonstration of UAV launch capability and some mock demonstration on some micro USVs, which are really more around giving people ideas what they could do with it. And there's a fair amount of trade space. I mean, we're looking at about a 35-knot sprint speed boat, about a 500-mile range, and at least 1,000 pounds of payload that could be distributed kind of dependent on what the mission of the customer is. She's got some things that we've still got to do, but we want to get her to the show kind of to show the capability. We'll be going through our own internal testing and then kind of making her available to clients in the next 1 to 3 months. And then from there, it's a question of what we integrate, and that'll be client driven more than us. But yeah, she's fairly mature. She'll be wet next couple weeks.
Don't go away. When we come back, the latest from Capitol Hill on pay for troops. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. Congress has been hashing out a sweeping round of quality of life improvements for troops recently that could offer a big boost in benefits for service members. Our Capitol Hill Bureau Chief Leo Shane has been tracking the details and brings us this report.
Several big events on Capitol Hill this month could dramatically reshape veteran and military family benefits for years to come. The first is the House Armed Services Committee's new report on military quality of life issues and their proposals that will likely be included in this year's defense authorization bill. Now, this report has lots of stuff that could benefit troops and their families and military spouses. There's a 15% increase in pay for junior enlisted troops. There's more financial help for families that are struggling. There's more medical care, more daycare. There's more training for military spouses. All of these things are things that lawmakers have said are way overdue and need to be implemented to help with recruiting and retention issues. And they say they're very hopeful they can get it all done this year.
Pay for junior enlisted service members failed to keep up with inflation or remain competitive with today's civilian labor market. Housing costs are soaring, but the housing allowances are not keeping pace, forcing families to pay more out of pocket. Service members living in unaccompanied housing are exposed to regular sewage overflows, gas leaks, mold, brown tap water, bed bugs, and rodents. We were shocked to see the deterioration, or at least I was, the deterioration that has occurred here since I retired from the military in 2014. Service members and dependents are awaiting weeks to see mental health providers. We found that wait times for childcare can exceed 6 months. And 22% of our military spouses are unemployed and face unnecessary hurdles in finding employment. It's the largest demographic in America for unemployment, military spouses.
Now, it's unclear whether or not any of this will actually pass. Before it goes into law, they'll have to get it through the full House and then through the Senate as well. And military officials have already said that they have some concerns about this. They're conducting their own review of military financial issues, pay and benefits issues that they hope will be completed next year. But lawmakers are saying they can't wait until next year for these changes. They need to happen now because too many families are struggling and they need that relief right away.
This report that I hope all of you will do your homework and read will be the foundation of the 2025, FY 2025 National Defense Authorization Act. We intend to take all of their recommendations and put them into this bill, and the bill will travel on this foundation.
Meanwhile, across the street from Capitol Hill, the Supreme Court had a major ruling on veterans' education benefits this week. In a 7-2 decision, the court ruled that a veteran who had asked to use both his Montgomery GI Bill and his post-9/11 GI Bill should be able to use both benefits to attend college classes. Now, what does this mean for student veterans? It could be a major change in how they receive their benefits and what they can get. Right now, they're limited to 36 months under VA rules, but the court said that's not just. If you qualify for both benefits, you should be able to get up to 48 months. That's an extra year that veterans could use for completing a degree program, starting a new education program, a whole list of things related to college education. We'll have to see exactly how that plays out. VA says they're still reviewing the ruling. Advocates are saying they're not sure exactly when veterans might be able to access that money or go into stuff. And lawmakers may need to pass some new legislation to regulate just how that goes. But both the education benefits and the military quality of life benefits are going to be major points of discussion as we go into the summer and fall to see just exactly how it'll play out for families and for veterans. For Military Times, I'm Leo Shane.
In headlines from around the military, the Missile Defense Agency has selected Lockheed Martin as the supplier for its next-generation interceptor in a contract worth an estimated $17 billion. The forthcoming interceptor is intended to protect the American homeland from long-range ballistic missiles, replacing the existing interceptor in the ground-based mid-course defense system. Lockheed, along with its Rocketjet Aerodyne partner, beat out a team from Northrop and RTX to advance alone through the critical design phase. The Missile Defense Agency is looking for the new interceptors to be in the ground by the end of 2028. Next up, the Navy and Coast Guard teamed up to rescue 3 men stranded for more than a week on an uninhabited island in the Pacific. The men had embarked in a 20-foot boat from a small island in the Federated States of Micronesia about 1,800 miles east of the Philippines. They became stranded after they hit a reef and their boat took on water, but U.S. Coast Guard Commander Keith Arnold explained how they were able to spot the men.
The help sign was pretty visible. We could see it from a couple thousand feet up in the air. We noticed the island first, and then on the first circle, we were able to see the help sign. We were later able to tell that it was made out of palm fronds, but that was able to cue us in to those being the people that we needed to talk to.
The Coast Guard cutter Oliver Henry, homeported in Guam, was later able to pick up the men. They had survived for 9 days on the island.
9 days on a deserted island is a long time. They took their outboard motor, which had been damaged, onto their shoulders and were able to get onto the Coast Guard cutter Oliver Henry's small boat and get back onto the ship.
The military is expanding universal pre-K to dozens more locations. The Department of Defense Education Activity, which manages schools on U.S. bases worldwide, launched its pre-K option last year with just 65 kids at one location. Now, 79 more schools will be added to the program for the 2024-2025 school year, the agency announced. That leaves 10 installations without the pre-K option, but those will be added over the coming years, pending construction and renovation of classrooms. Once all 90 schools are on board, about 6,000 4-year-olds will be eligible for the program, according to DODEA. A group of critically endangered Mojave Desert tortoises are said to be thriving after being released at Edward Air Force Base in California. The tortoises appear to be healthy following a period of indoor and outdoor rearing prior to the release, local wildlife officials said.
It's an exciting day here at Edwards Air Force Base. Our tortoises have gone out into the real world, and for all intents and purposes, they have graduated, is what we like to say. I'm a biologist at the Living Desert Zoo and Gardens, and being able to be with them from step one in our care and seeing them go from such a fragile state to being re-released and looking around, sniffing around, and knowing exactly what to do and how to be a grown-up tortoise has been pretty exciting, and I feel nothing but proud.
Scientists will continue to monitor the tortoises for health assessments and track them with radio transmitters to keep an eye on them and study them as they age.
We will continue to track them throughout the year, at least once or twice a month. And so we'll understand their movements post-release, what sorts of habitat features that they're selecting for to spend their time resting or foraging in. So we can really learn a lot about the juvenile age class that we can't really understand without releasing them and following them carefully in their natural habitat.
When we return, our personal finance expert is back with tips for veterans who are small business owners. Don't go away. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, personal finance expert Jeanette Mack returns with tips for veterans who run small businesses.
Veteran-owned businesses contribute over $1 trillion to the U.S. economy yearly. These small but mighty companies are successful in part because of the unique skills veterans have that lend themselves naturally to entrepreneurship, discipline, leadership, and problem-solving skills. For a lot of folks, though, the hardest part of owning a business is getting started. The best advice, don't go it alone. As a vet, you've got connections, use them. The Small Business Administration at SBA.gov can point you to groups and programs for veterans to join. Get help finding investors, raising seed money, and building out that ever-important business plan. A solid plan will guide you on your path to setting and meeting your goals. And don't forget your advantages. Being a vet is a powerful marketing tool. It can get you higher priority for government contracts or persuade customers to choose your business or services. When it comes to growing your business, dedication and persistence wins. Stay committed to your mission and your customers, and you'll achieve success.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next week. To get more coverage of military and defense topics, look up from that drone terminal and check out militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more headlines. And to be the most informed sous chef in the DFAC, sign up for our early bird brief, compiled each morning to bring you the most recent headlines. And if social media is where you collect open source intelligence, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And like most junior service members, we're on TikTok, so go find us there as well. Don't go away. When we come back, an innovation to improve Navy and Marine beach landings. Question: how do you think the Navy or Marines judge things like current and sea state before sending a bunch of landing craft ashore? How do they look at the water and see if it's safe, or how boats will act as they approach the beach? The answer may not be what you think and is decidedly low-tech, so the Navy is looking for a better solution. What if someone aboard a ship could simply fly a drone off the deck and get all the same information? That's the capability one team is working on, and they brought their tech to the floor at SAS. Check it out.
So if I'm a Marine or a Navy Beachmaster that I'm on the shore in a contested area, I need to get information to vessel operators coming onshore. A lot of times you have to rely on your intuition or some crude technology such as a tennis ball, measuring things with your feet. And they have to somehow characterize the surf zone this way. So they call them surf observation reports. And a lot of times when they measure things that are dangerous to incoming vessels or personnel, such as currents or wave heights, they use optical signatures, meaning just what they can see with their eyes. So they judge wave heights with their thumb. They throw an object or a tennis ball into the ocean, time it, pace off how far it is. That's how fast the current is. And that's the information they transmit and what vessel operators have to go off of. So while their intuition is really good, we're trying to enhance that. So one component that we have that's developed by ERDIC, which is the U.S. Army of Engineer Research and Development Center, it's called LIS, or Littoral Imaging System. The idea is that you take this small drone, whether from an oncoming vessel or if you're already on the beach, take it up, do a 5 to 10 minute flight, it lands. You can pop the SD card into a tablet or into a field laptop, and in 5 minutes you get maps of your surf zone, you get bathymetry or depths, identification of wave hazards, and all of this is actually put into real world measurements. So instead of saying, I see a rock 20 pixels away from us, you can actually say it's going to be 20 meters to your right, or it's going to be at this lat and long. That can be easily transmitted to a vessel operator or command. So right here is just an example screen of one of our products. So this is the depth map or the bathymetry. We also try to provide a lot of different visualizations that will be more useful for the warfighter. So this one is actually in geographical coordinates. They can annotate the image to see where there could be potential boat lanes, potential hazards. This can be made into a geotiff that can be thrown into larger geographical mapping systems. We also have visualizations for the vessel operator, as well as people on the beach to help with just in the heat of the moment, left and rights can become very confusing. And we also take visualizations from the drone itself. And you can add points, and just by visually identifying something, then you are given a report that gives the lat and long of those coordinates. So you're actually just mapping with your eye. This particular system, it's just software, so it's made to be designed with any program of record drone that has an RGB or IR camera. We'll have the drone, input from the drone. We'll have input from the littoral lens sensor. We are also going to have input from forecast models. And so all of that information is going to come into one place on a tablet, and then that will be presented in a very clear and concise way to the Marines or the BMUs, that they know which has the highest degree of accuracy, and which they can easily pinpoint what information they want quickly. We also are, importantly, still allowing and providing means for them to enter their own traditional values too, just so that they do have that gut check value where they can say, typically I would think this is a 3-foot wave, I'm sure this is, and they can use their intuition as well, because that's still important.
And that's all we have time for in this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.